Luke from Maricopa, Arizona. I read that Sunny and Sable had heat with each other in 1998, which is part of why Sunny was released from WWE that year. Why was there heat between these two, and why was Sunny fired and not Sable? So, depending on who you ask, you get a different answer about her heat with Sable. Jim Ross was the head of talent relations at the time. He says jealousy played a role, which of course it did. Of course, jealousy played a role. Tammy always denied that it did. Her stock answer was always, no, I wasn't jealous at all. I had no issue with her. We all had a role to play. Her role was, then she would, demean her and say, I was the person who was like the girl next door that, your mom would want you to marry. And Sable was the one that you would take to the motel for 2 hours and then kick to the curb. That was one of her stock answers in these interviews. But no, of course, jealousy played a role. If you were not the shiny new toy anymore and they replaced you with someone who was getting more attention and more screen time and someone who wasn't a wrestling person like Tammy was, then of course there's going to be some professional jealousy there. Now, Tammy has told the story, and it's Tammy Sytch, so just keep that in mind. But she has told the story before of the heat really originally stemming from something that Sable said to her and Terry Runnels. So I guess somebody could ask Terry if Terry can confirm the story. Something that Sable said to the two of them in the dressing room one day. Sable used to bring her daughter on the road with her, and they knew that Mark Merrow was not the girl's father. So one day, they're in the locker room, and Sunny asked Sable where the girl's real father was. And Sable told them that he died in a car accident when their daughter was just a baby. And Sunny was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she claims that Sable said, no, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because if he never died, I never would have met Mark. And Tammy said that at that point she lost all respect for her. She actually called it the most selfish, cruel thing that a person could say. I can use those same words to describe Tammy for getting behind the wheel smashed and killing someone, but as far as why Sunny was fired and Sable wasn't, Sable didn't refuse to go to rehab. And start no-showing events, which is why Tammy was fired. I think there was even a time where she allegedly told Linda McMahon that she suffered a miscarriage, and that's why she missed a show, and she couldn't produce any sort of proof or medical documents or anything like that. It was just excuse after excuse after excuse. So that's why. That and Sable was a draw. If it came down to Sunny or Sable at that time and WWE was forced to choose, Sunny would have needed a nose job. That door would have smacked shut in her face so fast. Sable, look, say what you want to about Sable, and her run was relatively short. I know she came back in 2003, and even then she wasn't around for very long. Say what you want about Sable, a lot of people have. She was over. I mean, you talk about top names in the Attitude Era and people who were popping numbers and ratings and doing business and the Playboy deal and everything. Obviously, Austin is going to be at the top of that list. Rock ended up not doing too shabbily either. Sable's right there with him. You think of Austin, you think of Rock. Sable is right there with them. That's how popular and how over she was. She was the one that the people gravitated to and that the people paid to see. So yeah, if you gave WWE a choice, gun to head, pick one over the other, Sunny would not have been there very long. Scotty from Columbus, Georgia. With WrestleMania 40 being held in Philadelphia, can you see WWE inducting Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame as the headliner next year? And if he is inducted, who would you like to see induct him? Heyman has said he doesn't want to go into the Hall of Fame until this run that he's on now is over. He thinks he could, there's no rush to put him in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I would headline Philly with Heyman unless they can get The Rock or somebody much bigger. If you can get The Rock, or even if Batista were to come in and finally say, okay, I'm here, I want to have my official Hall of Fame induction finally, then you would headline with somebody like that. But otherwise, I think Heyman would be worthy of headlining. It would probably be Roman Reigns doing the induction, but it really should be Brock Lesnar. Those two were like peanut butter and jelly together for so many years, really from the moment that Brock debuted. Even if you take out the 8 years that Brock left the company, if you add up all the years they spent working together on screen, either as friends or as enemies, because Heyman turned on Brock once before, however they were working together, they lasted longer together, working together, than the entire length of ECW. 5 years ago, I would have said there's no chance of Brock giving a speech for anyone at the Hall of Fame. Maybe not even himself. But he's more chatty these days. And I think for Heyman, he would do it. I don't know if Heyman would ask him, or if the company would ask him, but I think if somebody came to him and said, look, we want you to induct Paul into the Hall of Fame, I think Brock would do it. And I think he would be a better choice than any of the ECW people would be. There's so much distance now. I mean, I get that it's Philly, so there's the ECW tie-in, so some people may disagree and say, well, it's Philadelphia, you should have an ECW person do it. If they were going to have an ECW person do it, I think Joey Styles would be the best person. You could go with an RVD. I wouldn't go with a Tommy Dreamer. I mean, he's working for Impact anyway, but yeah, ever since I heard that insane story where, Dreamer said he was such just a head case at the time that he had this plan to assassinate Paul Heyman. He was going to shoot him with a gun and then I think turn the gun on himself at WrestleMania 17. And I think it was a phone call from Jim Ross that talked him out of it. Like, yeah, we don't need to see Tommy Dreamer giving a speech for Paul Heyman at the Hall of Fame. Could it be RVD? Yeah, it could be, I guess. I mean, I guess there's any number of ECW people that you could go with. I think Styles would be the best one to do it. But who do I want to see do Paul Heyman's eventual induction into the Hall of Fame? It would be Brock Lesnar, because I just feel like he's the most appropriate person.